Hello, I'm George, and this is a companion to my 2026 Spring Conference for the South Carolina Beekeepers Association presentation on AI for the Beekeepers Made Easy. This is how I currently utilize NotebookLM to manage my bee logs. Now, I do want to add a few things that are kind of unique to me. The big one is I've learned a lot about making this video about how I log and how I talk, for that matter, and I'll talk more about that. But primarily, I use a small digital recorder with a wired mic in my bee suit when I'm out in the apiary. I pretty much turn it on when I get started and turn it off when I stop. I probably talk a little too much, but I talk all the time I'm going, because I tend to be forgetful and I want to make sure I don't forget things. And it's important to be really descriptive while you're doing this, and add context when you can, because the AI doesn't necessarily know slang. If you're not talking clearly, it may miss something, or if you're not using the same words over and over again. And that's something I've learned. I've done some reports on last year, compared them to receipts, and quite frankly, I didn't log all my visits like I should have. And I also it missed a few things, and it's probably because I use different terms. I've got to get in the habit of doing that. Just like, though, if you were to log with paper, you got to remember to do it every time. You've got to use the same terms if you're going to do any kind of data extraction or analysis or stuff, if you're a numbers person like I am. Now, keep in mind, NotebookLM is only grounded to your logs. And what that means is it only uses your logs as source material for what goes into it. Now, it does have an underlying understanding of beekeeping and practices and those kinds of things that it gets from its model that has been trained in a bunch of different subjects. And you can look at some of the other great AI videos out there to kind of see how that goes. But to enhance that, it limits itself to your sources. Now, finally, I want to say this is not necessarily the best way to do it, and some may think it's not the easiest, but it does work for me. I'm not inclined to log on paper. I don't like, my hands get all messy. You have to keep a notebook there and gets messed up and not rained on, but sweat on, or the heat gets to it or whatever, and I've got to constantly pick it up and put it down. And this also allows me to crunch data in a bunch of different ways, which I like. And I think this year, with going into 2026, I'm going to do a much better job of, like I said, keeping using the same terms over and over again and tracking it that way. Now, I do want to mention something. There's two versions of this. There's a free version and a paid version. I have the pay version, the Pro, which gives me the capability of adding up to 300 sources in a notebook. However, if you use the free version, that does limit you to 50. You can create additional notebooks, you just can't have all your sources. Now, if you're just doing a log a week or log every other week when you go out and do your inspections, that's more than enough space. I tend to do logs, like I say, every time I go out there. If I check them at night to see how they're doing, mostly their feed. I go out at night a lot of times and I'll check their feed levels, because I can just shine a flashlight through it and I can see how high the sugar syrup is in the bucket. If I go out there, just do a quick feeding or just do a quick heft check or whatever, I'm adding one for that. So I do a lot. And like, for instance, I have 87 now. That is about a year and a half. I started this mid 2024. I started recording, so I've got the 2024, 2025 in here together. Now, as for resources, if you look over here, you can see all of my video files, my audio files from my recorder. However, you can also add text files. Like, for instance, I wanted to include when I was doing my paramoth, and I mentioned about logging, I kind of dropped the ball there. I only got the first entry. But I do have this other one in here that I talked about a little bit about pollen substitute not having it work. It's in there as well. And I think I've got a hive inspection here. I don't remember exactly what happened there. I think I wanted to highlight the temperatures. And so I could kind of remember that for next year to see how they were doing and be able to feel better about them existing after so cold. Because like for instance, we had some 19-degree nights in here. I don't know if this is the one. We had one 13-degree night. I think that was the early 2025. And we're about to get one upcoming here about 16 degrees. So I just want to make sure they can make it through the night. And you can add anything else you want to add in here. If you want to, write up a little paper that talks about how you refer to things, your shorthand, for instance, you could go in there and you can say, okay, when I say fondant, I mean Hive Alive fondant. When I say sugar syrup, I mean 1-to-1 sugar syrup. And you can put that in there and then it will learn from that. And when it's referring to that in reports and responses to your questions and your chats, it will know that that's what you're talking about. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and do a little query. Let me clear this out. Delete my chat history. And I've got, what I want to do is I want to know a little bit about my treatments that I've done throughout the year. So I'm asking it to summarize each treatment. And you have to talk to AI pretty much like you're talking to a 5-year-old. So you have to be pretty... you have to explain a good bit. You don't have to tell them every little bit, but if it's something specific to your situation or it's something you do a little differently or you're going to need to spell it out. So for instance, I said I want the summary sorted by date and then hive number. I want to highlight and bold any actions not taken regularly, like but not limited to queen replacement, merging a hive, or splitting a hive. At the end of the list, total of all treatments used, all feed given, and the number of Dixie strips installed. So we're going to go ahead and run that real quick. And it's going to use, like I said, just my sources over here, and then the basic beekeeping knowledge that it already has. All right, so I cut it out of the video, but that took about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, something like that. I didn't actually time it. But it talks about everything I asked for. Now, it just covered the things I told it to sort by. And this is part of the learning process for using AI. I probably should have phrased that a little differently because it did exactly what I said. And it also didn't, and it highlighted the things here. So there's queenless, there's split, there's using the newspaper to do my thing. So it's just got the inspections I did. I did formic acid in March, and I can kind of just have everything all laid out there. So let's go ahead and go on down to the middle here, the bottom. So there we go. So, so my totals for the year, formic acid, I gave 4 applications. I think that might be a little off. I need to go back and check that. Oxalic acid, I didn't count, but that's probably pretty close. Viroxan strips, I installed them all 6 hives. That's correct. And paramoth, because I added it, it said once, but I actually added it probably 4 or 5 times. I didn't log them all. Now, feed given, liquid syrup. So I went back and looked at my receipts, and I had about 27 gallons. It's got me at 23. So obviously I didn't log a couple of times I went out there. There's a few times I had to go out there on lunch hour and whatnot. So that's probably what's going on there. Hive Alive fondants, I think that's a little light too. Probably didn't log those as well. But I can go back and check my stock and see where I'm at with there. And Dixie strips, I'm not sure where I'm at with that. I usually went out there every time. I may have forgotten to mention it a couple times. And Dixie strips, for anyone who's not familiar, that is a commercial grade of towel, of hand paper towel, that you can put in your hive to help keep the small hive beetles in control. They get stuck in it, but the bees don't. Just make sure you cut them with scissors, because if you rip them apart, the bees will get stuck in the edges as well, and of course you don't want that. So let's go ahead and take a look over here at the studio. Now, part 2 of the series of companion videos, I've got one on Gemini, I've got one on NotebookLM overall, and this is part 3. kind of goes into all of the specifics of how to use these and what they do and all that fun stuff. So there'll be a link at the end of this video to both of those. So I'm not going to really go into that, but I'm going to show you some of the things I created from my logs to help me next year. So the first thing is this video. I created a little video and I'm going to play it for you for a minute. So go ahead. And you can see how it sounds.
You know, when we think about beekeeping, we usually think about the honey, right? What comes out of the hive. But what about what goes in? Today on The Explainer, we're going to crack open a beekeeper's personal logbook to answer a pretty simple question.
Now, the cool thing about this is, let's see if I can find out where it is here.
Just relentless.
There we go. This one has like the consumption rate of my sugar syrup laid out, the dates I went in, and this next little piece is good to know too.
Critical supply of solid fondant to see them through the winter. And you know, the consumption was not even close to equal. The logs show it over and over again. The biggest, strongest hives, numbers 1, 2, and 6, were just absolute beasts. They were drinking syrup up to...
Okay, so that can kind of give you a visual way that's kind of fun to review your logs. This next thing here is a report I made, and I made it with this little button here, and you can actually customize these a little bit. So I'm going to look at my prompt. So this is the prompt that I created, and a prompt is basically your question or your response to the AI model. And I want to see how much and when each hive was fed. Also, total feed used should also include fondant. So we're going to close this out and we'll open this up, and it kind of talks about everything. So it shows when I did the sugar syrup, and like I said, I didn't log it all the time. And this one's actually a little light. This one had me at 12 gallons. So I clearly missed something there. I don't think it used, because see, it didn't go all the way. So I think I'm missing an entry here, and I might be missing an entry here earlier that it didn't recognize. So then down here, here's my feed to Hive Alive Fondant. This is pretty close of when I fed everything, except that I'm pretty sure that at the same time I did this, I also did several others, and these are probably these prior twos. The thing about making your logs, if you don't put in your date properly, like you have to actually say the time, the date, how long it took you as you're recording, it can't read that necessarily from the file name sometimes, especially the length. It can't read the length. So that's just something good there. So anyway, it's got me solid feed of 11. The total liquid feed's really low here. So I've got my receipts there, and like I said, I reconciled them. And it's just a learning experience for me there. So the next thing I've got is a podcast. So I'm going to click on this and let you listen to that for just a second.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today we are doing something a little bit different, and I think it's just incredibly cool.
He observes what he calls a shotgun pattern in the brood.
Shotgun pattern. That sounds bad.
It is very bad. A healthy queen lays her eggs in a solid, tight spiral. So when you look at a frame of capped brood, it should look like a solid sheet of cardboard or leather. A shotgun pattern looks like someone...
And well, this isn't necessarily all that useful. It's fun to listen to. I've listened to quite a few of them, and you find yourself getting pulled in just like you're listening to a podcast. And the quality is very good. Occasionally they get the words wrong, but you can kind of usually mentally filter through that. And you can download it, share it, rename it, do whatever you want. And you can do that on all of these. So let's take a look at the prompt here. So this one is, I've got a report ordered by date and then by hive that details the work was done to each hive on that date. Each type of work should be bulleted and in the same order for all hives. So let's take a look at that one. And this one goes the whole range there. So there you go. Hive 1, general condition, pest management, status, etc. Hive 2, see, it's got everything in the same order, so it makes it real easy to review. And we'll scroll all the way down here to the end. And there you go. Then the next thing we've got here is a data table. And this is for varroa treatments and mite check readings. So if we go here to the custom prompt, we can look at that as well. Create a table of all varroa treatments performed on the bee colonies. Also include what all mite checks were complete and what their readings were. I will need the date of the treatment, the hive number, the treatment type, treatment dose, and mite check results. Now the thing is the order that you put them in is the order it's going to show them in the table. So if you want something sorted, it generally needs to be the first in line. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. And it's pretty cool. So let's see here. So we got there's my hive 1, my mite check. I did 10 mites. I do the alcohol wash, so that translated to about 3 per 100. So I tested that right after that. I probably missed recording that, but that's in there as well. I was right in the, let's see, no, I started a 5-cycle treatment for that epoxylic acid in the middle of the summer. It gets hot here, so I don't have a whole lot of choices. And I did not record those like I probably should have. And then I've got my Dixie strips here, the mite check, and it just kind of gives me an idea where I'm at. Most of my mite checks are in here. So there's 14, 4 to 5 per 100. Yeah, that one was a little high. It was always high. And then other notes. So it's kind of good. And there's a comment about gaps in brood. And let's see here. Roxanne, which I can't spell with a dog. And that's how it translated it. And then more mite checks. So yeah. So overall, like I say, it can be a great tool. Takes a little bit of learning. It's free. Give it a shot. It can be a lot of fun. If you don't have a recorder, you can definitely use your phone. Most phones have the recording on there. If you have an Android phone, you can actually go to their website. I think it's recorder.google.com or something. It'll tell you in the app. And you can actually download the files from there and upload them to NotebookLM. So great. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will do my best to get to them when I can. And have a wonderful day.